This is my sister Kristin. She's my dearest, closest friend, and I love her to pieces. This is Kristin in January of 2014, when she was 16 years old. One weekend near the end of January, my family went on a ski trip with some friends at Sunrise Ski Resort near Greer, Arizona. We had been on the slopes for about half an hour that day, and I was having an awesome time. My sister Alyssa and I had quickly skied down this run, and we were waiting at the bottom for Kristin and my dad. They were taking a really long time, and we got tired of waiting, so we headed back up the lift to do the run again. We were happily skiing along when we got about halfway down, and I saw a bunch of people standing on the edge of the run next to a ditch. I saw all of our friends that we had come with gathered around somberly, and with a sickening feeling in my gut, I knew something horrible had happened. The first thought that popped into my head was my accident-prone sister Kristin. I skidded to a stop, ripped my skis off, and ran over to this exact spot. I asked one of my friends standing there, "Is it Kristin?" He looked awful, and I already knew the answer. He said, "Yes, it's Kristin," and before he was done speaking, I was already sobbing. Kristin had been skiing down the hill behind us, near the end of the group. She was approaching a fork in the run when she realized that she needed to go to the right. She attempted to make the turn, but she was going too fast, hit the snowy ice, and lost control. The last thing she remembers thinking is, "I'm going to hit that sign." Our friend was snowboarding right behind her, and he saw Kristin go flying into the trees and into this ditch. When Kristin didn't come out of the trees, he went over to check on her. He found her laying on the snow, her bloody head on this rock. She was unconscious and having a seizure. He immediately started praying for her as another one of our friends called 911. My dad arrived shortly after, and by the time Alyssa and I had arrived, the medics were already in the ditch with Kristin. I could hear her moaning and yelling like a mentally handicapped person as I hysterically cried. I thought I had lost my best friend. She'd been wearing a helmet, but hitting your head that hard on a rock was sure to leave internal damage. I was terrified that my clever sister, with her sharp wit and her awesome sense of humor, was gone. Amongst much moaning and yelling from Kristin, the medics loaded her onto a sled and pulled her onto the ski slope. I got my first glimpse of her face, covered in blood, and I watched as they pulled my sister down the ski slope. They took Kristin to the medical building at the ski resort, and we all waited for a helicopter to arrive to airlift her to Phoenix for immediate attention. The medics couldn't really tell the extent of the damage, and that was terrifying. When the helicopter arrived, they loaded a still unconscious Kristin onto it, and we watched her fly away. My parents, Alyssa, and I got in our car, and we started the 4-hour drive back to Phoenix. The drive was long and scary, and we didn't know if Kristin was going to be okay. We kept praying the whole way back to Phoenix. About halfway back to Phoenix, a nurse called us, and Kristin actually talked to us on the phone. She had regained consciousness on the helicopter, and she sounded like herself. They were going to do an MRI at the hospital she was at to see what the internal damage was. By the time we arrived at the hospital, the results had come back and everything was okay. The doctors said that the helmet saved her life, but I know God was watching over her. The only damage was that the skin from her cheek had been scraped off. She had 2 large gashes above her eye, and her hand was sore from hitting a rock. But no internal damage. They even let her go home after just an hour in the hospital. It was truly a miracle. Kristin spent the next few days in a great amount of pain. As her swollen, bloody cheek began to scab, the skin started pulling tight, and this was extremely painful for her. However, she never complained, and I deeply admired her courage. My mom started applying essential oils to Kristin's cheek, hoping to speed up the healing process, leaving as little scarring as possible. Lots of friends stopped by to check on Kristin and bring gifts and get well presents. She spent a lot of time sleeping those few days, letting her skin heal and her body recuperate. Monday, January 27th, was 4 days after the accident, and also my birthday. Kristin was starting to feel better, and even though her face still looked awful, she was acting more and more like herself. It was the best birthday present I could have ever asked for. Kristin's face continued to get better every day. She kept applying the essential oils, and the recovery truly was remarkable. You could literally see the giant scab growing smaller every day. However, her hand was still causing her a lot of pain, so she finally went and got it x-rayed on Thursday, and sure enough, it was broken. Kristin is very accident prone, and this was her 5th broken arm. Her face was healing at an amazing speed, and she looked so much better just 1 week after the accident. But now her arm had to be confined in a cast for several weeks. Her face looked so much better after just 8 days. It was simply amazing. The essential oils had really worked, and God had answered our prayers for a speedy recovery. The scars on her forehead above her eyebrow would take a little more time to heal. Her arm continued to heal, and after several weeks in a cast, she got it taken off. By Kristin's birthday on February 19th, you wouldn't even be able to notice that anything had happened to her face at all.
Hi everyone, this is me now. Here's my scars, right there. And I have a little one right there. And this whole side of my face doesn't have any freckles. And it's new skin, so it's really soft.
I am beyond grateful and so blessed to have my best friend and beloved sister still in my life. She truly is a miracle.